My goal here today is to push this, I'm going to call it a fence row, back a little bit so I can mow better under it and just not to totally clear this section. I won't try to mulch all of the material here, but I want to get some of these little trees out and some of the limbs that are leaning over. It's very similar to what a farm would do to trim back their fence rows so they can farm a little closer to the edge. And we're going to do that with this prototype mulcher from Versatility. I call it a mulcher. It's really a modified tree saw. I'll get into all of that as we tear this place apart. Let's get started. Yeah, this device is a tree saw, but I made some suggestions to Versatility to how we might modify it to make it a little more functional. The tree saw itself already had a very fancy function I'm going to show you right now, and that is the rotate function. You able to see it, Christy? That's already, you know, a very, very nice feature, and it provides a lot of versatility. I just got to figure out exactly how to use it, when to use it. But what I've requested that they add to this particular tree saw was some different teeth and some mulching blades on the bottom of the saw blade. And that's what you're seeing work there. Okay, so it just adds some versatility here. Now, I'm not sure whether I want to try to mulch downward on that tree like a fixed head brush mulcher would do, or if I would be better off cutting off that tree at the bottom and just not worrying about trying to mulch that log itself. I can tell it'll be faster to just cut it off at the bottom. See, I can cut both of those little trees off right there quickly. And then what I found is that I can tilt that mulching head just a little bit, like this, and sort of direct where it throws the extra pieces here. So I'm directing that they be thrown into the woods as I swing that way. And so those two little logs that I've got, yeah, I may mulch them a little bit, get them scuffed up a little bit, but for the most part, I'm just going to throw them back in the fence row here. Being tipped just a little bit really allows me to throw that extra brush towards the woods or towards the uncleared area. And this allows me to just quickly go along and clean up this fence row and push it back. I mean, here just in the couple minutes while you've been watching, we've moved this fence row back about 15 feet.
Thank you for directing it away from me, as it does throw a good bit of stuff outward.
Yeah, it throws more than any other unit I've used so far. So I have to be very careful in which direction I point it. For example, if I tilt it downward like this, it throws it right toward the cab. So I cannot operate it in that direction at all, no matter which way it's tilted like this. If I can see the bottom of the disc head, it's not going to be good for me here in the cab. So I have to keep it tilted at least flat, if not a little bit away from me. Just destroys those grapevines.
Yeah, you can reach pretty high with that thing.
Okay, right in front of the saw here is one of those honeysuckle bushes, honeysuckle trees, that just cause us all kinds of trouble here in Indiana. Totally out of control. Let's see what we can do to it. Stuff is usually not too strong. It just grows up so quickly and it's so annoying. This does a number on that. The tree saw that this is based on retails, I believe, starting at $10,000. So it's cheaper than a fixed head mulcher. And so that's one of the advantages. It also has that saw function, so it gives you a way to handle bigger material. I don't think it's in all ways better than a fixed head mulcher, but so far I kind of like the versatility, depending on my objectives, right? I mean, I'm in this case getting stuff mulched to a pulp overall is not necessarily my final goal, but I want to be able to mulch stuff a little bit. I like that. But being able to cut these larger trees really speeds up my process a good bit here. That's nice for just trimming that back. If I'm not taking that tree down, I'm just deciding to trim off the branches. That's nice for that. Now, that's not something you do in your yard. Obviously, it doesn't look very nice when you're done, but for a farm or right along a fence row, this is beautiful. It's quick. One more feature that I hadn't mentioned yet that we suggested be added to this saw is this little, I don't know, piece of steel that helps me use it as a grapple. So if I want to just pick stuff up and throw it in the brush, I can do that like that. So in this case, I'll leave the tree. Just trim it back like that.
Seems heavy on the front end, like you're tipping your.
It is heavy. It is heavy. It's way out there. That's what gives me that reach, though. So you have to have blade down on this size excavator to be able to use it. On a bigger excavator, you'd have more flexibility.
That worked well.
Yeah, that achieved the goal. See, I cut the tree down and pushed it back into the brush. That's really all I needed to do. I believe for taking down those limbs, mulching them off from the outside is faster than trying to get all the way into the inside and cut them off first and then mulch them. It just seems to be not as handy to try to get all the way in there. When I mulched my way in, I was on the first ones. I was able to just do that much faster, and I could still end up with the same result. I cut off whatever was left. But with this approach, I've got some really big logs left here. Awkward to handle, and you know, mulching my way in, I had smaller pieces left to deal with. I'm going to cut this tree off right here. Now I could, if I wanted to be quick, I could just grab it with my grapple. Throw it off on the brush, but I think I'll mulch it up a little bit so it'll take up at least less space out in the brush. And I believe what I found is if I'll tilt that mulching head just a little bit that way and then drive down on it from the top, tear a lot of those limbs off of these small ones pretty quick. got the limbs off of it. Now I'm left with just the trunk. I'll just push it off in the brush here. Let's just see what we can do with this big tree. I think this would be bigger typically than I would tackle with this type of unit, but hey, that's what we're all about here, just trying stuff out and seeing if we can find a limit. What I'm going to do to start is to get rid of some of these branches so I can see the trunk easier. Really no other motive than that. Again, if you're just wanting to trim under it, pretty easy way to do so. Let's try cutting it down. Now, is it leaning toward me? I don't really want it falling on me. I'm going to cut a little bit on the far side from the camera. Okay, so I'm probably halfway cut there. Got my notch cut. Now I'm going to come around to the other side. Lean my saw down a little bit so that I've got that black tree guard there that maybe I can push the tree a little bit with to help it fall where I want it to fall. Okay, I want to push the tree out of the way a little bit and see what we can do with the stump. Okay, so we'll try a couple of different approaches here. We'll try essentially using the saw teeth here. See how fast that goes. I have good visibility of what they're doing. When I swing faster than it can cut, and that's probably my own fault. See how that works. So then let's try the grinding teeth on the bottom. Tilt it down so I can see it at the risk of tearing up my windshield. That's a pretty good way to grind it. Actually, I've got good visibility. And it's not really throwing stuff toward the cab because it's small pieces. Some stumps do throw bigger chunks, so that might not always be a good plan.
At the time of this recording, this device is still a prototype. If you're interested in purchasing this, I would recommend contacting Baumolite Corporate directly. sales@baumolite.com. Your local Baumolite dealer will simply look at you with a confused stare if you mention it to them.
Now I expect this stuff to be a little smaller, just not near as heavy a limbs as those big trees. I just wanted to see how quickly I could deal with this and how easy it was to mulch it up. This looks like that honeysuckle that we have so much trouble with. I've not got any particular plan here other than I'm just kind of swiping back and forth to get the greenery off so I can see what I've got underneath. This stuff's way too big to mow with any mower, at least that I've got. So I could potentially use a grapple mechanically to get in there and get it, but it's just a lot easier to use some sort of a mulching head. I suspect this would actually be a little more efficiently done with a fixed head mulcher, like the Mongo Attachments version that I've got. But I think the point here about this machine is the versatility. It's got 2 or 3 different things it does. You know, we were able to take that big tree down. I don't think I could have done that very easily with a fixed head mulcher. It was just too big a diameter. Now, it's not going to mulch as good as a fixed head mulcher, meaning that it's harder to get this stuff to just totally disappear. I'll still have some limbs left. So that's, you know, it's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. And it's nice to have that flexibility at times. I hope to be illustrating enough different uses of this thing so that you can recognize whether it's meant for you or not, right? I mean, clearly it does a job. In this case, it does, you know, 2 or 3 different styles of job here in the woods. But only you're going to know whether this is exactly the type of work, or whether the type of work you have is most appropriately suited to this device. If I can show you the different usages, then you can better make that decision. So that's our goal. That's, you know, that's pretty woody, pretty big trunk on that honeysuckle there. With a fixed head mulcher, I could go right down on that. Well, I'm even kind of doing it with this one. Yeah, that's working pretty good. There's a lot of wood in there.
It's a new meaning to swipe right.
Yeah, it does bring new meaning to swipe. But the answer is yes, I can swipe debris pretty good if I'll tilt that rotor just a little bit. It does a pretty good job of mulching it as it swipes it. About got that stump down. Okay, that's enough of that for me now. It's never ending, Christy. They just keep going and going back in there. I just don't think I can finish this project without getting rid of that one little tree back there. It's sticking out and it's bothering both Christy and I, so let's go get it. We'll at least start with the other approach on this one. Mulch our way down instead of cutting off at the bottom. Can't tell if that's gonna throw stuff at you, Christy, or not.
Yeah, it is.
This is some flavor of oak. I don't know which style. It sure does throw it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you're better to cut it off at the bottom.
Well, the benefit is that I'm getting rid of the tree as I go. It just wants to spring. It's interesting, the honeysuckles really weren't doing that. So here's my summary for this project. I may have a different summary when I think about it more, but this is what I've got for now. This machine has multi-functions, right? I mean, what we've got is a tree saw and a mulcher and a grapple all in one, and it rotates, right? So, you know, those are a lot of different functions going on in one
head or machine at one time. And for the little project we did here, we worked maybe an hour and a half on this project. And it was my first experience with the head, so some of that is just, you know, practice and experience. It would be hard for me to say that any other device that I've used would be better for this overall. Now, if I would stick only with the smaller stuff that we were mulching, a fixed head mulcher would be really good. Reaching way up and getting some of those limbs, this thing did a really good job on the tree, the big oak tree that we took down. I just don't see that a fixed head mulcher would have done very good on that. It would have been too big of a diameter. Maybe I could have ground around on it for a while and then, you know, knocked it over with the boom of the mulcher, maybe somehow like that, but it just wouldn't have been as easy as using the saw portion of this device. And then once I got that tree down and I was able to mulch a lot of the limbs off of it, yeah, it took, you know, just a few minutes to do that. But once I got it that way, then I was able to use the grapple, pick that up, get that pushed over into the brush. I think for fence row cleanup and pushback, this is a pretty good device. I'm going to recommend they go to product with it. What are your thoughts below? Do you see anything that they could do to improve this device before they go to product? The DXA 530 was the number of the original tree saw, and that's what it says on the side. But this one is modified again with those teeth below and different teeth here, more aggressive teeth here. So it's probably a little slower sawing too. It doesn't have those small green teeth on the saw blade, so it saws a thicker strip. And so it probably doesn't saw quite as good as a standalone saw. We'll use it more in the future. We'll talk to the company and see if they've got any other ideas, and we'll let you guys know as always. I really enjoy helping to design and test some of these enhancements and some of these prototypes. It just brings a lot of fun to me. And I think this one's a hit. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful.
Even that speed, it'd chop your head off.
Well, don't put your head down there.
I'm not. Just put my nose down there.